Hello, and welcome to another episode of Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark. Be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Hey there, Eric. It's so good to see you. Thanks for coming. Hello there, Chris. Good to see you too. Hey, Bucket List Sis. Good to see you. Well, he should be in a few minutes, and then I have to drop the link down where for him to come up. Um, I was doing a little bit more research into something so I could show y'all the news story concerning it. All right. Hello, everybody coming in. Hey, Randy, good to see you. Thanks for coming there. Hey, Jackie, good to see you as well. Lots of love. Thank you. Lots of love, everybody. So we're waiting on Charles to come in here, and I could drop him the link where he could get up here. And we're hoping there won't be a problem with the phone like it was the last time. This will be hard to um, take, but I'm going to go ahead just for the sake of this other articles. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Okay, hold on. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips a balance in favor of fair use. So we need to make sure that whosoever shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, that he was drowned in the depth of the sea. And I'm going to make sure I'm going to have trigger warning. Okay, let's see what Charles had to say. He just texted me. It won't allow it on the other phone. Okay, try it with this phone. This phone. Hopefully he won't be kicked out when he's going to try to come in here on his phone that it was messing up the last time. So let's see. All right, how's everybody doing today? So he's got things about the Atlanta child murders. That's in Atlanta, Georgia. Two, the Oklahoma City bombings with Charles Rogers. Okay, thank you so much, Bucket List. That's okay. It's all right. So I done made a trip to Alabama. Got my son's dresser delivered to him. I've been about that for a long time. We got that taken care of, so thank God for that. All right, let me see. Give him a call right quick. See what he says here, y'all. That's wonderful to hear, Jackie. Okay, just go ahead and try on this phone. Click that link and come on in, and we'll try it that way and see if it works. And if it don't, then I have to call you back and interview you via phone.
Okay.
Okay, so just yeah. So everybody's in there waiting on you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, yeah, I'm trying to get it through now, but it's acting like it's not wanting to.
Okay, on this phone or the other phone?
The other one would be better probably because it has stronger signal.
Yeah, you want to go ahead and go to the other phone if it will let you?
Uh, yeah, if you can call on it.
I mean, but I thought you said you're going to try to get to that link.
Oh no, it won't let me go through on either one right now.
It won't even let you get to YouTube right now or not or anything.
Yeah, it's I'm having to go through all these steps with it right now. See if it'll let me in.
Okay. Did y'all hear him okay? Uh, so give me a call on your other phone, okay? And I guess we'll just have to do the phone interview then, all right?
Okay.
Yeah, you call me back.
Okay.
All right, bye bye. Yeah, he's gonna have to get a headphone set soon so that he'll be able to use his computer. But if he did get on his computer, uh, you know what? Okay. Hey there. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Hope everyone's doing well.
I was wondering also if you wanted, if there was a way you did get on your computer and get to YouTube and be able to go to that link, you know?
Yeah, I wasn't able to get
Oh, yeah, the mic. You wouldn't be able to, people wouldn't be able to hear you. That's why we can't use the computer. That's right. Okay. So, welcome, Charles, to Child Abuse Awareness again. And you said you wanted to talk about from the Atlanta child murders to the Oklahoma City bombings. So, where would you like to start off?
well, I guess we can probably finish up about where we left off the last week when we had the conversation about the Bentley Farms because everything really still is going to involve uh,
Okay, I'm going to get this up right now, and I want to show. First, I want to show the old Bentley Farms, the people, the old Bentley Farms. You know, the blackout stables signs where the blackjack stables. The people that knows me, y'all know how this part affects a lot of us in a lot of ways. So it says right next to the I-20 loop here in Marietta is a real working farm right in the middle of our community. It's been owned by the Bentley family for a few generations. The farm covers a good part of the southern slopes of Blackjack Mountain. It wouldn't be called a mountain in lots of places, but in Marietta it sure qualifies. The three signs on the barn used to hang on the barn up on the mountain. The Bentleys used to run a horse boarding and riding operation, a venture long since abandoned. These signs are well on their way to ghosthood. I'm not sure if they qualify yet. Below the words Blackjack Stables were the words Bentley Farms Incorporated at one time. Okay, so let me get past that one right there. Okay, and this was September the 7th, 2021. I'm going to read the two articles to them first, okay, Charles?
Okay.
A total loss. Fire destroys barn of Marietta's Alice Summerer. And she's related to Ed Bentley from the Bentley Farms, right?
That's correct.
See, there was Ed Bentley Sr., and then there's Ed Bentley Jr., okay?
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
so Marietta lawyer Alice Summerer was at the Marietta McEachern football game Friday night before deciding to leave early. As she came home to her farm abutting Blackjack Mountain, she was concerned to find a fire truck blocking the road, believing a neighbor might have been the victim of a fire. Settling up for the evening, the passing sirens and lights were constant. But the farm is expansive and nobody had contacted Summer about the fire. An hour or so after getting home, she checked Facebook right before bed and read a description of the fire that someone had posted. A barn was burning between Bentley Lake Road and North Marietta Parkway, and it sounded exactly like hers. Okay. You notice something right there? She's like, she was at a game and then she came back home and she saw the fire truck before she got home. Um, and she didn't even stop to check because that had to be part of her property. Something just don't sound right there. She said, well, she didn't know nothing about a fire on her property. So a lot of that just don't make sense to me. I'm sorry, okay?
Well, I understand because somebody like me who, knows a lot about the history of that farm,
Uh-huh.
and what we discussed, we're probably going to sit there with a kind of a trick and look at that and try to dissect it.
But yeah, I'll go on. I still
Because we can see through it. Maybe we can help everybody else dissect the problem with that story. Um, is there is mostly apartments, condominiums there along that stretch of Barnes Mill Road
right,
on the north side. Now there is a neighborhood there just close to it that does have houses in there,
right.
residential homes. But also by that there's homes in there that are like duplexes and
But their property is this the only thing that on their property is their land and the barns and their houses, or other people live on that property as well?
well there's a fenced in church there for the black community.
Right,
They're on Bentley Lake Road. I drove down there a couple of times just trying to scope things out in the past year. And they have signs out there about arson control, which I call controlled arson because I don't think it's anybody else but the Bentleys themselves actually burn their own barns.
okay, hold on. Okay, hold off of that for a minute. We'll go ahead and finish reading that, then we'll get back and get into the gist of it and let them know about all that, the evidence pinpointing and why you say that, right?
That's right.
And so I just threw on some clothes and went out there as fast as I could. Summer said it was already too late. They had been working for hours trying to put it out, and it was a total loss. The barn was part of Blackjack Stables, which Summer owns. Despite being devastated at the loss of the barn, she was thankful that her 5 horses had been out in the pasture and were unharmed. The barn contained farm equipment such as fencing, wood, wire, and the like. Fire investigators haven't given Summer any indication as to what they believe caused the fire. Summer thinks someone lit it intentionally. Of course, we know somebody lit it intentionally. There's no electricity in the barn. There's no activity in the barn. It's just for storage, Summer said. There's no other explanation than arson. And if y'all looked at that first picture that I showed y'all, there was an outdoor light in that barn. There was an outdoor light. So there had to be electricity before, in that barn. Had it not, other times burned prior to this too. This ain't the first barn that they had to rebuild and everything. This is just an ongoing thing that kept going on over there. The things just keep getting destroyed at the barn. So Marietta Fire Chief Tim Milligan confirmed the location of the fire and said the firefighters were called out to the site at 9:28 p.m. Friday. The Marietta firefighters assisted in fighting the blaze. The fire occurred in unincorporated Cobb County. Milligan directed further questions about the incident to Cobb Fire, which is overseeing the investigation. Cobb Fire did not respond to inquiries about the fire by press time. On Wednesday, Summer heard from a cousin that another barn on the other side of the mountain had burned in the past month or so. That's something we need to try to get you to check into, Charles, see if there's any affiliation with the Bentleys when that other barn on the other side of the mountain had burned in the past month also. So I don't.
I would assume so. Because, where my cousin lives. He's the
Are you talking about Robert Vetch or who is it?
beach.
Beach. Okay. So I don't.
And he
Okay.
and Ed Bentley Jr., they're the owners of that place.
Yeah.
And I didn't know of any barns back in there behind them until you mentioned that. But I'll let you go ahead and read on both articles. That way we can cover everything at one time for everybody.
Okay. So I don't know if we have arsonists living in the neighborhood or what's going on, but it's put me extremely on edge, Summer said. Summer added that investigators were coming back to the site on Wednesday to examine it further. For Summer, there said there was no fire hydrant nearby, so the firefighters had to maintain a parade of trucks that would empty their water. I would like to thank the community for their outpouring of love and support. It's really been special to know that special care, she said. Summer also thanked the firefighters for their enormous effort to try to contain the blaze. So let's go to the other article. It was devastating to see, and this was just a couple months later, and it said it's devastating to see fire destroys another part of Marietta residents. And this is February 22nd, 2022. Early Monday morning, firefighters from Marietta and Cobb County responded to a large barn fire at 2000 Bentley Lake Road in Marietta, where similar structure burned to the ground just 6 months ago. Marietta firefighters were notified of the blaze at 2:18 a.m. and the fire lasted an hour until the department was able to contain it. No injuries were reported. Destroyed in the blaze was a 20-stall horse barn with three tack rooms, according to Alice Simmer, whose family owns the property. The structure was part of Blackjack Stables. It was devastating to see, Summer said, of the family stables. No animals were injured. Thank goodness they were in the pasture, so they did not get hurt, Summer said of her horses. Put 'em on, she says this, but usually late at night the horses go back to their stables. Y'all know that. Summer and another family member, George Bentley, which is really Ed Bentley Jr., as you said, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Reside at the farm, according to Cobb County Fire spokesman Ramesses Rivas. 6 months ago, a similar situation occurred when Simmer was coming back from a Marietta Eckern football game. At the time, she noticed a fire truck blocking the road. So we saw the other thing earlier. I got no notification whatsoever. So anyway, this got like Monday evening summer poster feelings on a Facebook page. One of my worst nightmares happened. They burned another barn to the ground. How could this happen again? Why? I'm soaked to the bone and absolutely devastated to my core. Are you really devastated, or is that just an act? So I'm going to stop sharing right there. Okay. Okay. Do you want to elaborate on everything?
Well, I want to first. I want to state um, anybody that lives in
Okay.
vicinity of Cobb County, Barnes Mill Road, they can
Can y'all
drive out there.
hold on a minute? Can y'all hear me? Okay, please. Put a one if you can. They said they're having trouble hearing.
They're having trouble hearing.
Yeah, so I want to make sure.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Yes,
Testing 1, 2, 3. How's that?
that's better. Can y'all? Oh, they can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay, so explain to that there was Ed Bentley Sr. and Ed Bentley Jr., and you knew about when you talked earlier the last week, I think it was, and you were talking about Ed Bentley and the son-in-law Stubbs, who tried to groom you and tried to get you to do the pedophilia stuff as a kid. Remember, right?
Yes, ma'am. With Ed Bentley Senior's granddaughter.
Exactly. And he was there, part of it too.
Yes, ma'am. Junior, both senior and junior were. Um, the point I want to make out to the local people of Cobb County is they can drive out there to Merritt Road or Gresham Road when it crosses Barnes Mill Road changes into Merritt Road and runs out to Allgood Road.
Yes.
But the old house where Senior and his family lived, right there on Gresham Road, has been tore down. It's a big old heat pile there. Just they went in there and tore it down for some reason, and just a big old heap. But there has been barns. We could do a survey in Marietta and go around and ask the residents that have driven out the 120 loop through the past 2-3 decades. There's been barns on that farm that have been repeatedly set on fire.
Excuse me. This is Charles Rogers. That's the guest. So he knows these people personally, and so he's given his account. This isn't something for someone that just heard the secondhand or whatever. A lot of the things, some things somebody had come and told him to witness to, but well, he's basically letting him know his story that he knows it as. Okay.
Yes. I mean, also as a white eyewitness to 2 of the Atlanta child murders.
I'm sorry you had to endure that.
Yes, ma'am. But anybody could do a survey there in Marietta to the local residents and probably find a large number of people that will verify their morning and afternoon commutes along that 4-lane stretch there that runs from 70. It's a teardrop around Marietta. That's why they call it the loop.
I want you to know people said hello.
Well, thank you, and hello to everyone. But Tip Top Poultry is in close proximity. It's known as the Whitewater exit there, Interstate 75.
Yes.
Which is also a subsidiary of Six Flags.
Okay, I had an aunt that lived right across the street from Six Flags.
Mm-hmm. Well, Six Flags is in Mableton. It's still Cobb County, but Whitewater there is about a half a mile north of what we call the Big Chicken, the Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's a landmark. And Cobb Parkway is Highway 41, runs adjacent to Interstate 75.
Right.
So this is there in close proximity of Whitewater, the Big Chicken, Tip Top Poultry, places like that. When everybody gets to wondering where Layton Graphics used to be located, for example, is their Aero Exterminators.
Right.
Where it's located today, they're at Woolco Drive and Gresham Road there by Tip Top Poultry. And we'll get into that here in just a little bit. But people have driven through there for decades, and they have seen barns repeatedly caught on fire and put out. That the fire department was very responsive.
Did you talk about right there on the Bentley Farms? You saying that it's not just these 2 articles that happen consistently through a lot of years?
Yes, ma'am. They've had a large number of bonfires that, if we was to do a survey, could probably work its way into the Guinness Book of World Records.
What do you think? What do you think they're hiding, Charles, to have all these fires that keeps happening?
Well, they have been sex trafficking and adults and children over there, from my guess, for the past 100 years.
Wow. And we already know even people like Judge McLaughlin is involved when he was one of the people too. So it's higher up. It's not just like the businessmen and Bentley. Um, it actually involves a lot of other people. I think you said like um,
Well, Ed Bentley Sr. was first cousins with Marietta attorney Fred Bentley Sr.
really?
And yes, ma'am. He was the founding attorney of Bentley and Bentley. Well, Bentley and Bentley Law Group there in Marietta,
Right.
who are also, I believe, connected to CSC, which is the corporate agent for the Kroger and the Home Depot corporations out there in Marietta. And as later on we can get into that, Home Depot did attempt to have its own corporate headquarters hit with a truck bomb in June of 1997. If nobody believes me, they can go to Smyrna and Vinings and just ask around. A lot of people still talk about it this day, how the Cobb County Police Department let the cooks and Eric Rudolph and Matt McRae and Joey Davis, anonymous caller, to the Centennial Park attack, leave that day with that truck bomb.
Right.
To go to American, North Carolina. Because this is all tied in still to the Bentleys. And right. It's not just the Bentleys, it's other members of the Georgia State Bar. And when we get into the Georgia State Bar, that's when we start getting into people like Zell Miller, David Ralston, and of course Jimmy Carter.
And remember that one I told you about that I had met from a dating site, and his name was Butterbrains?
Yes, ma'am. Joe Pugh.
Yeah, and trying to find out, yeah. Because then I didn't even know who that was in the picture, and then I went to your page and said, "Who's that?" I said, "That looks like Butterbrains." And you said, "Yeah, that was his nickname."
Yeah, Butterbrains.
So he gave me a false name on who he really was when we met in person. So I was in danger meeting that guy. So y'all be careful who you meet on the internet. They can give you a false name and everything else.
Well, he's actually an investigator with the Cobb County District Attorney's Office. That's who he is. And then, of course, there's Attorney Grady Moore, and of course, Justin Wyatt. And as we'll get into the story with Mike McLaughlin, the Cobb Assistant Magistrate of Cobb County, I kind of listened to the last week's stream, and there was some block out where I couldn't understand it. So hopefully we'll cover this and recover this real quick. Like that, after my dad sold the farm that we were residing on in Morganton, to the son of the man he bought it from, who still lives there today, and it'd be Damon Davenport, logger there in Blue Ridge. There was a lawsuit. Ed Bentley Sr. sued my dad for wrongful death. And he expected my dad to pay child support for the Stubbs children who he had custody of.
Yeah, and it's terrible. On top of that, the children of Stubbs, that Stubbs had got, tried to get, tried to do that with you, with them old kids, and then, and that they will continue doing that act around the grandfather, and then, you know what I'm saying there? And then,
yes, ma'am.
And then Stubbs was trying to kill you and your daddy self-defense. But if y'all want to hear that story, it's back last week, okay?
Yeah, Jim Stubbs.
Right, and so that's his. So Ed Bentley is his father-in-law. right?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So what Bentley did he marry?
I think her name was Teresa or Terry.
Okay.
She was Ed's niece, and her parents got killed in an automobile accident. I think around 1953 or 1954. Well, some people will call him George because his first name is George. It's George Edward Bentley Sr.
Right.
But he went by both George and Ed. And of course, Junior, he goes by Ed. That's why a lot of people kept the two separated, called the dad George and called the son Ed.
Right.
But anyway, he adopted her. And I went to talk to her after I got appointed as governor of North Carolina in 1998. I actually went over there to her house right there on Barnes Mill Road. And we had a talk, and I was able to forgive her and have a really good, positive conversation with her before Ed showed up and showed his butt, of course.
Right. To people that don't understand, because they might say, well, we can look at North Carolina and it don't show that you were ever um, elected or whatever. I'll let you explain and elaborate on how this happened, okay?
Well, even Governor Jim at the time in 1998 knew about my history, everything about me, including reinventing myself when I relocated to Pensacola, Florida, and got married the first time to this girl from Evergreen, Alabama. So he was filled in on everything. What had happened was from the multiple attempts on my life about this child trafficking operation on that farm down in lower Alabama. There was multiple attempts on my life by my brother Fred Rogers, Cobb Assistant Magistrate Mike McLaughlin, Roger Nance. There was one incident that involved Eric Rudolph, another boy named Matt McCrae, Sr., Murphy, North Carolina. Um, one incident where Judge McLaughlin crashed his 1970 Buick Centurion into the brick mailbox of Grady Rawls and Willadine Rawls.
I'm laughing because I remember the story you told me personally about that. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I had witnessed him committing a homicide in that automobile in 1980 when I was in the 8th grade at Mabry Middle. And Judge McLaughlin is from Knoxville, Tennessee.
That's scary. You know, that's pretty, I guess, a couple hours for me.
Yes, ma'am. And anyway, he was a college student back then. And after the death, I guess after the death of this particular hitman, I'm trying to remember his name is Robert Johnson. They had to come up with a replacement for this guy, and I believe that it was actually my cousin Robert Veach and Judge McLaughlin and them that kind of, and Ed Bentley Jr. that kind of filled in the gap for him. And Robert proceeded, or my cousin Robert Veach, he proceeded in being the top assassin for them, and I say possibly for the Clintons as well. But I witnessed him chase a 1969, I believe it was, Chevelle into the brick mailbox of the sister of Cobb County Sheriff Bill Hudson down Ebenezer Road, right down the road from where I lived before I got off the school bus that day. And he proceeded in snatching the guy out of the car, took him elsewhere, wound up killing him. Well, I didn't have a way to write down his tag number and wasn't able to get a good view of it anyway because he jumped in and took off as fast as he could. But I could tell it was an out-of-state license plate, which I can positively identify as a Tennessee license plate.
Right.
And of course, I did communicate with a responding officer a couple of times after the incident because the guy was taken off elsewhere and was murdered. So after John Ramsey's oldest daughter, Beth Ramsey, and her boyfriend, Matt Darrington, and I cannot remember her friend Paula's last name. She was from Marietta. They came down and located me in October of 1991, about 2 weeks after I had already became a witness against members of the Cobb County Police Department.
Hey, hold on a minute. So y'all know what he's talking about this is John older daughter, and this is John Benet Ramsey's oldest sister's half sister, right?
Yes, ma'am. I think there's Melody, John Andrew, and Beth was the oldest. That was with Lucy, John's first wife, who was from Philippines.
Right.
And of course, Burke and John Benet was by Patsy.
Yes.
But anyway, the judge decided to chase me around Brooklyn Road down there in Evergreen, Alabama, one early afternoon after my brother and others had failed to chase me down and kill me. He decided to take the matters into his own hands.
Tell them how old you were at this time, please.
Well, this was around 1995, so I was going right on 30 years of age.
Okay, thank you.
And I had a white Pontiac Grand Prix SJ white with T-tops for the 305 burgundy interior, and but it was just no match for that 455 4-barrel dual exhaust that he had on that Buick. But I was able to outdrive him onto Brooklyn Paul Road. And it's real tricky through there. Right before you get to the Rouse's mailbox, the road will dip down and go to the left. And the picket fence of their front pasture of their house goes straight. So you would think with the fence going straight, the road would go straight.
Right.
No, it turns right out to the left after their driveway. So he got on my butt, and anytime you're like 2 or 3 cars lengths behind an automobile, you can't see what's up in front of the vehicle in front of you. So I just drove straight for that brick mailbox. And at the last moment, I cut over, and he couldn't avoid colliding with the brick mailbox. And that's how he totaled out his 1970 Buick Centurion.
And he's lucky, too, that he didn't pop his head on that concrete, on that stone.
Yeah, during the invasion at my house in 2013, he said if his head had hit that brick mailbox, it would have popped like a cantaloupe.
Too bad it didn't. I'm sorry.
But I even went down and told the guys that was driving the old UPS trucks. There was 2 of them in the area. I forgot the name of that one dirt road one was parked on, but the other one was past it there at the 4-lane by where the old Paul Grocery used to be at. And I went over there and told them that he needed them over there. He had totaled out his car on a brick mailbox.
Yeah, so what was, hold on a minute, there's like, it was a car chase. Yeah, it was a setup when they were going to chase him. They had some box trucks up ahead, right? And so
Yes,
they
ma'am.
were going to try to where he would end up wrecking into the UPS trucks and stuff like that.
And get killed like Beth Ramsey and Matt Darrington did.
Yeah, the same kind of setup, I think you
The
said, right?
same setup. So that's exactly what they tried to do.
That's John Bonet's older sister got killed that way, y'all.
Mhm. Then I wound up buying a 82 Z28 that they had this high performance chip in, and that wound up with two other Camaros. I think one was a Z28 having a near fatal accident over in Brantley, Alabama. They're just in the beginning of 1990. Well, I say beginning more into the fall of 1995. A buddy of mine was actually police chief.
Hold on a minute. Did you? And I think you said that they were mad at her, right? They
Well,
were
yes,
mad at.
ma'am. What it was, um, one of my mom's brother, he was former distributor for Filter Queen vacuum cleaner. He went over to Kirby. He taught me into going selling Kirby vacuum cleaners with him out of Athens, Georgia. Well, we started in Marietta. The office was originally in Marietta, but so much sales was generating out in the Athens area that the boss wound up opening up a new office in Athens. Well, I wound up breaking off on my own after being trained by my uncle that I became a sales manager as well for Chandler Enterprises. It was Kirby Vacuum Cleaner Distributorship. So I had left the Waffle House. I had worked there at Unit 479 before I went to work with him. I had worked there off and on for like 3 years. So a lot of people knew me from working in that Waffle House. And so, of course, the Bentleys knew I worked there. John Ramsey knew I worked there. So anyway, without getting total details about Beth Ramsey, but after the birth of John Bonet, Beth started coming around her daddy more often. And he had gotten her a job with Delta Airlines where she could work as a cocktail waitress and stewardess and still work her part-time job up there in Chicago at this one bar where she also worked part-time as a cocktail waitress. Matt, he was in computer marketing, if I remember correctly, come from a very, very very, very good family. So when Beth was staying with John and Patsy, and got to hold John Bonet for the first time, she said her heart just melted because when she held her, she looked at her, and it was just like she was holding her. She looked like her so much it just melted her heart.
Oh, wow.
So she started coming around her dad more often. Instead of ending her shifts at Delta Airlines up in Chicago, she would, get off at the Atlanta airport and, sometimes take a taxi or have her friend Paula come get her or go to her friend Paula's and stay, use her car to go to her dad's. But she started helping out Patsy with taking more care of her and started, trying to build a relationship with her dad. And see if she could build her trust with him for a change. After being sexually abused with him by him until she was around almost 8 years of age. So she had contemplated suicide there at one point, and Matt was a good friend of hers. And he got to hanging in there, helping her pull through her state of depression from post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right.
And they wound up becoming intimate and close. And the only reason why they did not marry and have children of their own was out of fear of her daddy. When she got to finding out more about her daddy, the more it deterred her from wanting to get married, as well as it did Matt as well, because the guy is a total creep. So,
yeah, I guess they were afraid if they had kids, they didn't want their daddy to have any kind of access to the child. Is that what it was?
And that's right, because it doesn't matter if it's a little boy or a little girl. You cannot trust
Her daddy
John
did.
Ramsey around.
John
Either
Ramsey. Okay, Cash is asking who sexually abused Beth.
Her daddy.
John Ramsey. John Benet Ramsey's daddy, too.
Yes, ma'am.
And this was out of the words of Beth herself.
Yes, ma'am. So she got to staying with her stepmom and her dad a lot more often. And one night she was sitting out watching TV outside of his study. And he had the door partly open and he was having a telephone conversation. And my name had come up in the conversation. And she had found out that the stuff that had happened to me over there on that farm back in 73. And she knew the history about it. She knew about me meeting her dad over at Leighton Graphics 3 nights before my 18th birthday. After witnessing them murdering 2 boys down at the Chattahoochee River in June of 1982, which was after the arrest of Wayne Williams. And that's when I discovered my cousin Robert Peach and Ed Bentley Jr. and Fred Bentley Jr. were involved, which I didn't know who Fred Bentley Jr. was until here recently. I was able to identify Les Wexner as one of the guys I saw down there that night. And of course, Jeff Epstein.
Oh, boy. Yeah, and I see that picture of Ghislaine Maxwell standing behind little John Benet as well. And you said that picture was taken when?
That was taken during Oktoberfest, 1996, there in Helen.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. John and Patsy had a house there on Lake Chattooga, there in Hiwassee, Georgia. Even though they had another family using their home in summer of 1996, they were staying with Big Ray Duncan, the founder of Duncan Oil. You can Google search Raymond Toomey Duncan and see his legacy from Boulder, Colorado to Oakville, California, Napa Valley, and the wine business to the Durango Mountain Purgatory Ski Resort there in Boulder, Colorado as well.
Hold on a minute. Cass said really Ghislaine and John. No, it wasn't Ghislaine and John. It was Ghislaine and Epstein, that was involved. So that was showing that there's the proof behind John Ramsey exploiting John Benet. Okay, that's what we're saying there. Okay.
Oh yes, ma'am. Beth had found out that they had been holding like this 9-year-old Latina girl in this barn, their own Bentley farm. And she found out they had offered my brother Fred the $450,000 that I was supposed to receive by July of 1996 from the settlement from my dad's countersuit against Ed Bentley Sr. I was supposed to receive 6 acres and a house on that farm with that amount of money from that attempt on my life up in Morganton, Georgia in 1975. So they had drugged my brother Fred into this with the Atlanta child murders. He was working at Leighton Graphics. They're by Tip Top Poetry in 1982, I believe, on the account of it, because Roger Dance was the one who got him the job there working with him. And I met John 3 nights. I can't forget it because my sister had this 1977 Grand Prix she had. She sold me on my 18th birthday, but I couldn't sign for the loan until my 18th birthday. But she went ahead and 3 nights before my 18th birthday let me go ahead and have the car.
Wow.
So, of course, Fred wanted to go out, said, well, we could go to bars. Well, I'd never been to a bar in my life. I wasn't ready to go to a bar. I was ready to go out and see a movie.
Okay, hold on. When we're saying that Fred, we're talking about Fred, his brother. He had a younger brother, or
No, I'm the youngest. My
okay,
older
yeah,
brother.
okay. You got 2 older brothers, right? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. My sister is the oldest. I'm one of 4 kids.
Well, how it's set up. She was at a. I guess he'll go over that in a few minutes when you finish telling about this, and uh, he's wanting to know how. I mean, Bucket's wondering how Beth died, but we'll get more into what you were saying, and then you can answer that in a minute if you want to.
Well, I'll go ahead and answer that right now. He broke the golden rule. Matt Darrington never would drive in the rain unless he was alone. It didn't matter if it was just going to rain for 15 minutes. If he had Beth with him, he would pull into the nearest convenience store or restaurant, and they would sit until the roads would be dry enough to drive on again. So according to the incident reports, they were returning from a vacation, and he was driving at a high rate of speed and lost control of his BMW and hit a bakery truck head on. The ones who claimed responsibility for that was Frank Floyd, who was introduced to me the night that I met John Ramsey, or the evening, as Bill Ramsey. I didn't find out until this year Floyd's true identity. I always knew him as Bill Ramsey. But I met him, and actually Mike McLaughlin the second time, 3 nights before my 18th birthday there by Tip Top Poetry and Leighton Graphics.
And you can explain how Brent explained the story. It's pretty interesting how, how Ramsey met Frank Floyd, right? This is very bad, Bob. Y'all can pay attention to this. This is very bad.
Oh, wants to know how the two met? Well,
yeah.
Floyd and John Ramsey, even though I met them, Mitch McLaughlin brought Frank Floyd over there, off there by Tip Top Poetry, because he had just started his job with the Cobb Magistrate Court and just got his apartment to where he could go move in that evening. He dropped Frank Floyd off there by Tip Top Poultry. So I got a second good look at that Buick Centurion.
So the mailbox escapade, that one back then, right? Yeah,
yes,
okay,
ma'am.
that's how you put two and two together about who he was. Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
McLaughlin, yeah.
And anyway, he let me know he didn't care for me too much when he took off. But Frank Floyd stood there with John. Now this was after John bragged about the girls that he had murdered up there in Oakland County and Ohio and all that. That
he bragged.
McLaughlin showed up with
He
Floyd.
he actually was bragging to you about the different girls that he murdered. John Ramsey was.
Yes, ma'am. After I was introduced to him there at Blaken Graphics by my brother Fred, Nance, and the two technicians that worked there with them.
Wow.
At Lakeland Graphics, John was volunteering his services to the guy we know as Dale Montegraph, the executive of Polaroid.
Right.
They had the microfilm computer programs that they had designed for Lockheed Martin.
Uh-huh.
And so John had the federal government, so he was getting other companies, other competitors to handle the state governments for him, like Lakeland Graphics had already had Cobb County. And this evening they had just landed the deal with DeKalb County, and we're in the process of possibly picking up Fulton County as well. So they were going to have this celebration. I guess take me out and execute me and whatever.
Yeah, before they go and do an execution, they brag a lot on what the things they did. But I ain't got to worry about him telling because he's fixing to be dead.
Yeah, that's that was their sacrifice for that. That's all I could figure. But anyway, this is after John had told me about the 11-year-old blonde that had whooped his butt up there near Huntington, West Virginia, because he failed to remove her tennis sneakers before he tried to sexually assault her and forcing her in the back of his station wagon. Because John always drove station wagons. I'm assuming he drives SUVs now. But before those came popular, John Ramsey had station wagons. 1996 to 1998, he had a 1996 Buick LeSabre station wagon. When I had one attempted abduction over on Buford Highway in Doraville, I think it was in 1999 or 2000 in there. He had a group of people, him and Monty, they thought was going to abduct me until I was going to stand off to the first two that came up to me. And I'm let them know I didn't mind some most favorite people in the world love beating the hell out of is pedophiles. And they said, well, we ain't no pedophile. Well, what do you want me for? Well, these guys said you turning people in for drugs. I said, oh, who told you that? The pedophiles? Well, it was that John Bonet's daddy over there. Oh, he's definitely a pedophile. Okay. Well, let's go get them, boys. So the guys they sent over to abduct me, they're following me over to John and Monty's automobile. They look out, they see me charging toward them, and they pull out. That was another attempt that didn't work out too well for him. Yeah,
when you go like this and you keep on talking about when get back to where John Ramsey and Frank Floyd met.
Mm-hmm. Floyd was living up in Rochester, New York. I think he had a one-bedroom room. Room he was renting from somebody there, or a one-bedroom apartment or something like that. And John just so happened to be in Rochester on some kind of sales convention or something there at a motel. So at the end of the convention that day, instead of hanging around the motel, he decided he was going to go out and find him either a date or a victim. So he left the motel and was out driving around. He passed a supermarket and decided to pull in the neighborhood beside and behind the supermarket. And he's driving through there and turns on this one street and he sees this blue van pulled over on the side of the road. This guy struggling with this, preteen girl trying to struggle to get her in his van. So he goes pulling up to stop and aid the abductor. Well, that was Frank Floyd. So he goes running up to help Floyd. Floyd thinks he's coming up to help the victim, who was Carmen Colon. He pulled his knife like he was going to cut John. John goes, whoa, 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 don't cut me. I'm here to help you. And she's about to get away. So he helps him abduct Carmen and get her into the back of the van and tie her up, secure her, and followed her to some shed or some place that Floyd had picked out to take her to his little torture chamber. And that's where the story of where the Alphabet murders began.
Oh.
But
go ahead.
So Roger asked them, was like, well, those other girls, did y'all target them? They were like, no, we didn't target any of these girls. They were just by chance available at the moment when we snatched them. So they were not targeted. They were just picked at random, and it was just a circumstance that their first and last initials of their names matched.
Right.
And the police dubbed them as the Alphabet murders.
Well, so Cash asked, did anybody ever try to sue you for defamation of character or any NDAs?
I've had Roger Nance try to sue me for libel, and that's already been shot down in the Fulton County State Court. I did an overkill with a summary judgment in that case that proves that I have the evidence to back up everything that I have to say was true and correct to the best of my knowledge.
Right. And I know there's one story too where you went to, was it the Bentley Farms where you and Beth, because she wanted to go over there and see what was in that barn and before she got killed. Can y'all explain to them what had happened at Bentley Farms or how y'all knew that there was
Yeah, we're going to go back to that 9-year-old Latina girl that Beth said that they had held over there and had sex trafficked when she first tried to come and make contact with me in 1991. There was like a 4-month period that they went to the Waffle House where it had previously worked and had spoke with the cooks and waitresses about getting me in contact with her. Well, I was out working in Athens running sales crews, so I wasn't coming to Marietta very often. I had I guess don't want to get into too many details, but I had watched this one guy lose his life on a motorcycle out in Hull, Georgia one night, hitting a cow with a sales crew while we were on our way back to Athens from Gainesville, Georgia. And that was the second time that I had really saw someone actually die. So it didn't sit too well. I don't like seeing people die. So my boss wanted me to take a 2-week vacation, come home to Marietta, get a vehicle, come back instead of running a crew, just go out and sell on my own, which was great. I was tired of not making the money I could have made if I was out working the sales on my own. So I got back. I had a former boss of mine that was getting me I think it was a 1984, 1986 Mazda 626 ready for me to take back to Athens. When I became a witness against the police for the homicide of this woman from East Cobb. I'm not allowed to discuss at this time. But this was a couple of weeks later. I had to bring the automobile back to my buddy Gene for him to straighten it out. So he loaned me his Cutlass convertible. I was always able to borrow anytime I needed a vehicle. I could always count on that red convertible. He never had a problem. Let me use it anytime I needed it. So I decided to go over to Waffle House and pop in on my friends who used to work with over there and see how they were doing. And this was about 3-4 months after Beth and Matt had come out there looking for me. Then I went in there and I was having coffee, and they started telling me about this, pretty attractive brunette. They kept asking about me for like the past, 3, almost 4 months. At least 2 or 3 times a month, she would come in there and ask them if I had been in there yet to where they could get me in contact with her, and she would leave her pager number. So, they're telling me this, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. She was going by Jones or something like that. She wasn't going by her real name as far as to them, because she didn't want her daddy and the Bentleys knowing that she was coming in there asking for me. Right. So as far as they knew, her name was Beth Jones. Oh, I didn't know any Beth Jones. I couldn't imagine why any young woman would be in there looking for me, or anything other than maybe something no good. Maybe with Bentley Farm, and always had to keep that with an open mind. Exactly. So I'm puzzled, and they were like, "Well, you just missed her by 30 minutes. She was just in here 30 minutes ago, and she left her pager number again." And I was like, "Well," I said, "I'll go here and pay phone." They're like, "No problem. We'll page her from this phone right now." So of course they paged her, and she had her friend Paula's little, Geo she was driving. She showed up in, and I went out and sat in the car, and we got to talking, and she introduced herself by her real name. She goes, "Well, my name really isn't Beth Jones. It's really Beth Ramsey." And she asked me, she goes, "Have you ever heard of John Ramsey?" And I said, "The only John Ramsey that I know is the same idiot that was trying to kill me 3 nights before my 18th birthday with my brother Fred, Roger Nance, and the Bentleys over here, and some guy named Bill Ramsey. Hell, that's my dad. I was
Oh
like,
boy.
oh my gosh. I was like, lady, I don't know what in the world you want with me. Um, um,
So you had to be very leery of her then.
oh, I was. She scared me. She started telling me the stuff that, only my kin folks and my best friends, only my best of friends knew. And that was what had happened over there on that farm in 73. And of course, the attempt on my life in 75. This wasn't something I just went out and just, blurted out to every kid I knew in the neighborhood or buddies at school or anything like that. It was something I was always encouraged by my family just kind of keep silent about.
Yeah, because
So,
it's dangerous being a victim of them and telling too much.
mhm. So when she started telling me what she knew about me, and I said, "What are you, CIA?" And she goes, "No." That's when she started explaining about coming around her dad more often after the birth of her little half sister, and she didn't want to get into the details about what had happened with her when she was a little girl. She wanted me to at least meet her boyfriend where he could actually lay it out to me man to man, which I respected.
Yeah, that was Matt.
Hmm. But they had failed to locate me when they had this one little girl that did not know what had happened to her. This is what I found out the following evening. But I found out that evening that they had offered my brother Fred the $450,000 that I was supposed to receive to get rid of me. And that was kind of a game changer there. We agreed, since she had met me, she had called her boyfriend and let him know that she had made contact with me and he was making arrangements to leave for Chicago and drive down immediately. So he did. And we wound up meeting back at the same place the following evening. And him and her showed up. Now, she was dressed up from her work. I didn't even recognize her. She didn't look like the little Miss Innocent Southern Belle um, lady in the dress that I met the evening before. She was the Miss Model Materials
Glam Queen, kind of like.
Delta Airline stewardess. I mean, she's a very, very pretty lady. And that's when I got to meet Matt, and we had our talk, and that's when I got filled in about the two black teenage boys that they was holding in that one barn there by the on ramp from Roswell Road onto the 120 loop that was there for, oh gosh, Lord knows how long. It's one of the barns that burned multiple times before it burned down the first time. They built it back again. It kept catching on fire in the stall numerous times. And, them some fast responders department there. I mean, they'd be out there before the thing would burn down and be able to put out the fire where they continue using that barn.
Right. That was a concrete barn. Is that what you?
No, ma'am. The concrete barn. Now the concrete horse stables.
Okay.
That was built in. I think they were built in like 1958. And they used to be right there off of the 120 loop. They were built out of concrete. And the Stubbs family, they lived in the 4-bedroom quarters of one. Now, the concrete barn was a 2-story barn, had windows. And of course, they had another wooden red barn that they had built that also had to be destroyed. One house had to be destroyed. Both of the concrete stables had to be destroyed in the court settlement. My dad was back for the cattle ranch he had purchased from the Davenports and sold back. So he had all that money plus a new vehicle, and I was supposed to receive $450,000, 6 acres, and a house, that was inhabitable. Didn't have to have everything new in it, but habitable on that farm, and they did not have any intention of me moving on that farm. Especially after 1989, when I started going out and advocating against child abuse and tried to get with the Cobb County school system and tried to set up awareness program through the county school system. I had received some threats from them about wanting to go out and advocate against child abuse and what I call child prostitution at the time. So they knew they did not want me living on that farm and them still with a sex trafficking operation going on. So it's like, well, let's see if this brother will take the 450,000, knock him off. Maybe Roger will help, and then maybe Robert will help. So, anyway, she made the big mistake of doing what Matt and I both did. And also her friend Paula had told her not to do, and that was tell John Andrew. We had planned to come the following evening. Matt and I would go over. He kept an eye while I crawled up to the back of the barn where we would be out of view of the guys that lived across the 4-lane like they were homeless. Because the homeless people were always their guards. They always kept an eye on the farm. They were very well-to-do to be homeless people. So let me say that, monetary-wise.
Yes.
So we couldn't just pull up there on the 4-lane and jump out and go running over to a barn and rescue 2 black teenagers, without getting shot.
And these are 2 boys, as you said, right?
Yes, ma'am. One was, remember correctly, it was like 13. He was from east of Orlando. And another one was 15, and he was from there, I think, just a little bit north of Birmingham.
Wow.
And both had been snatched from foster care. They originally did not want to escape, and I thought that everything was fine, was going to be okay. Well, I was going to be able to rescue them. We had a place over there by Southern Tech we were going to take them to. I forgot what the title of the office was, but it's part to do with the Air Force. That's who we were going to take them to instead of to the police. One of the boys was supposed to get into the car with Beth and Matt, and they were going to take him while I ran over to the East Lake Center. And he and I was supposed to get in an automobile with best friend Paula. That way, both teenagers wouldn't be in one vehicle. So in case one vehicle didn't make it, the second vehicle stood a chance of making it, at least one of the teenagers. Well, John Andrew ratted us out to his daddy. So I convinced the 2 boys that it was going to be fine. We had everything set up, that there's a chance they were going to die anyway if they stayed there. And this was their only opportunity. And they went against their better judgment, and they came out with me. So we had to go running down this hill, kind of to this like ravine and back up behind Pike Nursery, and had to avoid it because of the security cameras that they monitored for Pike. I had to avoid those. So as we're running up, the boys are running beside me. I look over, and I'll be danged if it ain't that doggone Buick Centurion sitting right there on Greenbrier Parkway. And I'm like,
Judge McLaughlin again.
Yeah, I hollered at the boys to come up where I was at. They didn't listen. I cut to the right and go up behind some cars that was parked there behind the BP. And as we're all three running across Greenbrier, they drop on the pavement. I hear something like a bumblebee go by my head. And I get to the other side and I look, and they're laying in the street.
They killed them.
Yes, ma'am. See, Ed Bentley Jr., Bentley Enterprises, is the manufacturer for the silencers for the United States military.
Wow.
So Ed Bentley Jr. and my cousin Robert shot the two boys. McLaughlin got out of his Buick and he come walking over there and said it was a good thing I decided to cut up and run up the way I did. Well, the two boys wouldn't listen to me. They just kept running. And that's how they got it. So I guess if we'd all been running across together at the same time, I would have got it in the head too.
Oh, man. As a setup, there had to be other people around in that area too, no matter which direction you went to, I believe, huh?
That's right. I mean, if I had known that, I'd been better off just to cut across the 4-lane and shoot over on the ramp and coming on to Roswell Road from the 120 loop. At least up there to that shopping center up there. It was Kroger back then. I don't know what it is today. I think it's a big old storage building now. But at least I'd stood a better chance of getting on to safety if I ran over there or even along Pike Nursery and cut across Roswell Road with a bunch of oncoming traffic and got to that gas station. It was Chevron back then right there at the 120 loop. Anything but that.
Wow. I know that had to affect Beth really hard.
Well, it did after her daddy arrived. Because he arrived at the same time that Paula and arrived. He came there with her and left John and Andrew over at the East Lake Shopping Center. So, of course, he comes pulling up. That's right. John Andrew brought him.
John Andrew brought him?
Yeah, that's right. John Andrew brought him. He gets out there and he looks at her and Matt and her friend Paula and he goes, well, I would like to know what in the hell is going on. Why is this, Beth? And she goes, well, the things you did to me when I was a little girl and I found out that the stuff that you were doing, when I was raised better than that, is why. He goes, well, he looks at Matt and he goes, and Matt and you come from a good family, a good, Christian family and well-to-do and all that. Here you are, you're part of this too. And he looked over at Paula, who he hadn't seen in a while, said something to her. And he goes, now him, I can understand. pointing at me. He goes, I could understand his motivation, but he wouldn't have known this if you hadn't have told him. So I don't know if I'm going to kill him when I kill y'all. I might let him live for another year or two before I kill him, just because I can't blame him. But y'all three, none of y'all gonna live 6 months.
Wow. And how long was it after they were killed?
They got Matt and Beth in February, if I remember, following year.
And I remember
92.
I let you say the comment that Beth said that John had said, or whether the threat that what he was going to do to John Bonet.
Well, yeah, I'm about to get to that. So he looked at Beth. He got, really, what was your motivation? And she sat there and she told him that after he did to her what he did to her, that she could not just sit back and allow him to do that to John Bonet, because he had started to do the same thing to Melanie whenever she told her mother back in 1978.
Did she get the Melody away too?
So Beth said he had just put his hand up her dress that one time, like he had done hers, and that was enough for her to go tell her mother. So to her understanding, that was the only time that John was able to inappropriately put his hands on her younger sister.
Yeah, that's a cop out. They always say it only happened that once. Y'all just caught me the once. That's the time you got caught. You know what I mean? Basically, yeah, they won't always say it just one time. You know,
that she knew of. I mean, and she said she had questioned it, and she believed her sister that it was the only time. So that was the only time that she knew that he had touched her younger sister. Yeah. So he asked her, he goes, well, that could have got me and all of my colleagues, including his brother, put to death, his cousin put to death.
Yeah.
So you're telling me this was over John Bonet? She goes, yes. Oh, really? And what was going to do with her? Well, Matt and I was going to get married, and we were going to adopt her. Oh, really? Well, so this whole thing the whole time was over John Bonet. And she goes, yes, sir. Matt and Paula, they're like, yes, sir. Well, I didn't know John Bonet. I was there for the teenagers. You know?
Yeah, protect them.
Could I help save 2 teenagers? Yeah, I would like to be able to save a little baby from the hands of a, perverted child raping, murdering daddy, of course. That was just another incentive to, risk my life. He goes, well, after I have y'all killed, hearing about the Christmas of '96, I'm going to be celebrating the 20-year murder of Jill Robinson.
Where was she living at? Where's Jill Robinson living at when she got murdered?
Oakland County, Michigan.
Okay.
Up there, I think near Birmingham, Pontiac, if I remember correctly, the Oakland County child murders.
Right.
And anybody can Google search that information and find out that Jay Ramsey, or John Ramsey's daddy, was the one who got Frank Sheldon the funding, everything needed to build that landing strip there on North Fox Island, because he was the czar of Jay Ramsey, John Monet's
I
granddaddy.
mean, seriously, that Norfolk's that's another pedophile type island too, isn't it?
Well, yes, ma'am. Jay Ramsey's the one who helped Frank Sheldon to get the funding for it. Approved the permit to build the landing strip, inspected it, passed its final inspection, and shortly afterwards retired from the Michigan Aeronautical Commission. He was the czar of aviation.
Wow.
So he's the one that helped Frank Sheldon get all of that set up with. And just for the record, Frank Sheldon did not die out in New Amsterdam on July the 9th, 1996, like his fake death certificate states he did. Frank Sheldon was killed in self-defense with Andrea Strassmeyer and Dave Holloway around September the 23rd, 1999, there between Topton and Andrews, North Carolina. And he remains buried in North Carolina in a makeshift grave. And Strassmeyer and Holloway are buried in Elohim City.
Yeah. I'm sorry,
But they were all three killed at the same time.
I sorry I interrupted you on that part where I think you was about to tell us that he was threatening Beth that he was gonna kill her and Matthew, and also end up killing John Bonet on the anniversary of Jill Robinson's death, right? And was that
That's right.
was that also
in order to get her back, and in order to get Beth back for betraying him, so he could have eternal control over her soul.
He wanted control over both of them souls, right? Over Beth.
Well, I think it was really hers, that he would have control over her soul for eternity. He didn't say John Bonet, but he wanted her. He said her, where he would have, control particularly over her soul for eternity.
Right. And when was the anniversary of Jill Robinson's death?
Jill Robinson was shot in the face. This was a case that he was telling Fred and Roger about the evening I met him there at Layton Graphics, and had them all laughing about how he shot her in the face with a shotgun on December the 26th, 1976.
Wow. The day after Christmas.
Yes, ma'am.
But was it John Bonet died Christmas Day or Christmas Eve?
They say she died, her autopsy says the 26th, but she was actually murdered on the 25th.
Okay.
She was not murdered in her home.
Right.
She was murdered down the street at this vacant house that they had chased the squatters or homeless people out of, because there was like 3 or 4 parties Christmas Day there in Boulder when she was murdered.
And you can tell people how you know that, even though you were not there personally, how you know this.
Well, of course, not only was my brother Fred involved in the homicide of Beth Ramsey, but he was also involved in the homicide of John Bonet. Him with my cousin Robert Beach. I don't want to say any names of who said this, but
right, exactly. Got to keep him safe.
Attorney
That's right.
Robert Shapiro, Tribe Assistant Magistrate Mike McLaughlin, my cousin Robert Beach was the one who made the purchase over the deal. There was 15 involved in her home, including Oklahoma City Centennial Park bomber Mike Cook of Murphy Building Supply, his brother Jeff Cook, his brother Fred Cook, as well as Waylon Joseph Davis, the anonymous caller to the Centennial Park attack.
Wow.
Eric Rudolph was her water skiing instructor.
Yeah, both of them was John Bonet and.
No, I don't think he knew Beth, but
Okay.
he taught John Bonet and at least three other girls. It was ages 9 to 14, three of them.
And it makes you wonder whether he essayed them as well, you know.
Well, he did. I interviewed all three of them, and he did. The 14-year-old, she was a figure skater. Her daddy from there around Alpharetta, Georgia. Her mother from Nantahala, North Carolina. Jen is her first name, and I can't say her last name.
Right.
Beautiful young lady.
Got to save her too.
Never married. But she was a figure skater. She was infatuated with Eric Rudolph. I interviewed her twice because the day after the Centennial Park attack, I had stopped at the Huddle House up in Blairsville, Georgia, to have lunch because I had worked there in 1989 as well, or back when Larry Shapansky owned it. And I figured I'd go in there and have lunch since I had recently transferred with Electrolux from Pensacola to Murphy, North Carolina, on the 23rd of that month. Well, I didn't pay attention to the couple who was in there eating, except, there was this guy in his late 40s sitting over with a hot-looking chicken with a blonde wig. I couldn't tell how old she was, but she was dressed in one of those single-body miniskirt hugger type deals with high heels, flat frame rose colored glasses. And her parents had a fit when they found this out because she was supposed to be taking water skiing lessons that day. She wasn't supposed to be sitting over in the Huddle House having lunch with Jeff Epstein.
Oh, geez. Y'all hear this?
So I finished my meal. I go outside and I'm just looking around how much traffic had increased since I had last, been there, and some of the changes that have been made in town, for around the past 5-6 years, and smoking a cigarette. Just, looking around when him and her came walking out of the restaurant.
Whew.
And he was in this red Mercedes convertible with a black top, New York plates, of course. When they came out, she kept looking the other way, away from me where I couldn't see her face. But looking at her, you would have thought she was every bit 20, 21 years old. Until she got to that car and she turned around and I saw her face, and I was right. She couldn't have been over 14. And that's how old she was. She was 14 years old. But they tricked her into going out to dinner with Jeff Epstein that day. I forgot how much she was paid to dress up like that, but her parents had a fit when they found out. So the first time I interviewed her, she was in her natural dress, a brunette, jeans, shirt, dressed normally. And she told me about, started taking water skiing lessons in 94 when she was 12 years old. And that's all he was her water skiing instructor. Then in 96, he suddenly got intimate with her and, told her that she was his one and only, that they were going to be married one day and have children. She would have killed over Eric Rudolph at one point in her life. Well, up until those interviews.
Right.
And she found out that he was involved in the homicides of 8-year-old Stevie Branch, Michael Moore, and Christopher Byers out there in West Memphis, Arkansas.
Wow.
She knew he had taught JonBenét water skiing lessons. She did not know he had sexually assaulted her too. But Levi, when she found out that he was definitely involved in the murder of Levi Frady, poor girl, actually, I mean, it really messed the girl up. I mean, she wasn't even quite 18 when I interviewed her in 1999. She was still 17 years old. She was working at the Waffle House there in Johns Creek, there off of Jones Bridge Road, 2 years ago, or actually 3 years ago. Came down from Raleigh from one trip and went in there with this guy, Keith Duncan, and he sat there and told her we just got back from North Carolina on business with over Eric Rudolph, and she goes, "Oh, he used to teach me water skiing lessons," and I couldn't believe it. I had found her working as a waitress at a Waffle House.
Wow.
But the youngest, besides JonBenét, that Eric had assaulted in 1996, she wasn't even 10 years old. Just this beautiful little blue-eyed blonde petite. You know, when I interviewed her, she wasn't. She was about to turn 13. But it's like I told her when I talked to her, if I was out walking on a trail or something and saw her on a trail and had a conversation with her, she'd just been one of these girls that I would just, sit there and engage in a friendly conversation with. I couldn't imagine somebody my age or even just a few years younger than me want to do anything other than, just have a friendly conversation with her. And she agreed. She was really the most friendly, outgoing of the three victims that I interviewed. And
is she still alive? Because you was using was and all that, so I'm wondering if hopefully she's still alive today.
Well, hopefully her and that other girl, hopefully they're married. Hopefully they got children.
Exactly.
That was everything that I always encouraged them. The people. What really triggered it is kind of funny. I told you the other day I've been teaching child safety since I was 3 years old. Some people had overheard me one day talking with this little 5-year-old girl, and I was talking to her on the level that I would want her to give me, if she was my age, I would want her to give me the advice that an adult would. And I'm sitting there telling her not to trust, strangers, no matter how nice they were, not to keep secrets from her parents. Last people in the world, didn't matter who it was, don't keep secret. Well, next thing I know, I got all these parents wanting me to have that same conversation with their children there in the community.
Right.
So I wound up having that conversation with right around 14 children one day. And this was after I interviewed those 3 girls. And of course, I had to come back down to Georgia and do that crazy 25-year investigation deal. But if it wasn't for that, I probably would have spent weeks giving lectures to children up there because the parents wanted someone outside their family that could that knew how to lay it out in the language that a child could understand and explain it the way I can. And which, of course, I've not done any of those type of lectures ever since. But I have always taught it to friend of mine's children. The same thing I've told those children. And that's some of the most nicest people you can ever meet is some of the most dangerous people and the last people in the world you can trust.
Yeah, they got that cheapest grin on them that you really think they're really sweet and everything. And it's like when I went back and thought about some of the people from church, and they would one of them would come over there and do Bible study at home, but he was the very one that was telling that it's best that my husband kill me. It's my only way to heaven. And then I started wondering why. And then I remember he was in some of the satanic meetings at the house. My mama had 17 plus acres. So that's why he wanted me gone.
Well, Beth and Matt, the way they looked at it, they knew about their plot to attack the Alfred P. Murray Federal Building. They knew about it. They knew the plans to hit all these terrorist attacks. That they was going to throw this country into this race war revolution.
Yes.
In order to pull us under this new world order. We have discussed this before, went over there, some before we went over there and after we left that meeting with Fred and Roger the following day. It was crazy because they wanted to go the following day and have a meeting that Beth wanted to see what was in that barn, in that room. Because I couldn't get in the room to see what was in that room. The boys were up in the loft. And they were tied down in the loft, so I was able to untie them. They were not chained. So Bentley went up there and tied them up, knowing that I would come over and untie them. If he had them chained up, I wouldn't have been able to get them unchained. So it was a setup. Well, the crazy thing was, they had already tore down that barn and had already constructed a brand new one by 4:30 the following evening.
They could tore it down and build a new one?
They had already tore that puppy down and had already built a brand spanking new one.
That's how they didn't burn it down. That's how they tore it down, huh?
That's right. And she wanted to go in there. She was almost willing to die to see what was in that barn. Him and her had made up their minds that they did not want to live to see what they had in mind for this country starting in 1995 as they had planned. They would much rather be dead than to live in a society that they knew was being governed by a bunch of chomos, pedophiles, and child murderers. The way they didn't put it that way because we didn't use the term chomo back then, but child molesters and child murderers.
You came very close to being killed yourself because you said you heard that like it was a bumblebee sound, when that bullet went by your head.
Mm-hmm.
That came really close to killing you, so they had every intention on killing you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that ain't the first time they tried to kill you, granted. There's been a lot of other times, too.
Well, I mean, there was those, it's like Danny Hughes. You can Google search Danny Hughes and Terry Owenby and Patrick Baltazar, and you will find a composite sketch of the suspect in the 1981 homicide of Patrick Baltazar. And it's, Danny Hughes used to go over there where my dad bought the baseball team's food over there at the Tasty Freeze in Morganton. Old Danny was sitting over there feeding his face with some free burgers and fries and sodas that my daddy paid for. And of course, he's the one that lured told Stubbs and them whereabouts we were living at. So Stubbs was able to locate us in 75.
So Danny's the one that did that, though, then, huh?
Mm-hmm. And so when I see his picture on the evening news when I get from homeschool, this is after the incident that I witnessed over there on Ebenezer Road. when Judge McLaughlin ran that boy into the brick mailbox of Bill Hudson's sister. My dad moved us from there to this. He rented a house off of Holly Springs Road. And after Ed Bentley Jr. and some other guy, I didn't know his name, came over there one afternoon after I got home from school with rifles, come up in the rec room telling me to come down out of the kitchen. They were there to shoot me. My dad shows up with Robert. Robert walks over there and just sticks his pistol up there in the room, but they just give up. You know, a bunch of crock.
Yeah, because Robert Beach is one of the people that's involved in it too.
Yeah, he was, you know, he was down there at the Chattahoochee that night. And what it was after Judge McLaughlin killed that boy on Ebenezer Road, what it was, I got off the school bus because the school bus would come down Ebenezer, make a right on that road and go down to Blackland. It would make the circle back up to Ebenezer, and it would drop me off at my driveway, which was only about 250 feet on the left past that road. So I got my bus driver after some of my friends saw it too. I had my bus driver let me out there on the corner where I could get the people to call the police, you know, paramedics. You know, there's a wreck up here. So I told my bus driver to let me off so I could get it reported. So I went and knocked on the door of the corner house and asked the lady if I could leave my school books there on her steps and for her to call the police and let them know there was an accident. And she goes, yeah. So I go running down there where the incident occurred at, and McLaughlin's over there trying to pry the door open on the car to get the driver out of it. And I come running up on him, and I see the guy in there. He's really hurt. And when he finally gets the door open, the guy, he's got his arms kind of like pulled up, you know, to his chest and in real pain. I could tell it. And I said, man, it don't look like your buddy's in any condition to be moved, man. You might want to wait until the ambulance gets here. And he was like, you just need to mind your own business, kid. Goes over and opens up the passenger door of his car, comes over and drags the guy out, drags him over and throws him in the passenger seat. Shuts the door, comes around, and he goes, if you're smart, you won't mention this to the police, unless you won't die. Gets in the driver's side and just takes off. Well, I had no way to write down his tag number, and by the time I looked at his tag and he took off, I couldn't get the tag number. I couldn't quite tell if it was what state it was, but it's the dark blue Tennessee license plates.
Yes.
What he had. And of course, like I said, he's from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yeah. Somebody asked me to ask you a question.
Okay.
Okay, I know you were talking about the Atlanta City child murders and the Oklahoma City bombings. Is this affiliated any way to the Oklahoma child murders?
I heard that it is out of Doug McRae up there in Murphy, but I've not been able to find anything solid that could back up what he had to say about those murders. According to him, they were very much involved in the Oklahoma Girl Scout murders. But I always had to sort through some of the stuff that I was told out of these people to sort out the fact from fiction. Because they were testing me when I was up there to see if I would go run into the FBI and start telling them this and telling them that is what they were doing. So I have to stick with the stuff that I know that they're guilty of. And I know they're guilty of the Atlanta child murders. I know they're guilty of committing, attempting to commit 28 of 33 terrorist attacks that I helped stop. I could tell you who set out the explosives at Centennial Park, who built them. I could tell you most of the names in the bombing of the Arthur P. Murray Federal Building. Half of the names that was involved in directly involved in John Benet's murder. And around a dozen of the names that was involved in Levi Frady's murder, including his daddy and his mother, Milton Frady and Marilyn Parkman. Albert Samples, he was a witness to his homicide. Anybody wants to Google search that, there's a couple of guys that did a real good coverage on the $80,000 drug debt that was owed to Eric Rudolph and the McRae's through the Talents for methamphetamine and marijuana, which we also believe is at least a possibility. That's one of the reasons why Randy Thompson, the firefighter who also died from methylene glycol, after Sergeant Glenn Turner did, and Turner's widow, Lynn Turner, got convicted of both of their murders. Well, Lynn's uncle, Alan Howlands, was actually the employee of the General Motors assembly plant there in Doraville, who alerted his supervisors of the second truck bomb attempt that afternoon that they attempted right at the end of the shift that day. That resulted in the immediate shutdown and layoff of 3,200 employees. That day, I think if I remember correct, that was around May 22nd of 1997.
Hey, Charles.
Uh-huh.
I asked the wrong question. She meant, is it related at all to the Oakland County, Michigan child murder?
Of course. Jill Robinson was one of the Oakland County child murder victims. Every one of them was tied to John Ramsey and Frank Sheldon, and H.L. Bush, who was the CEO of General Motors. That's why we believe General Motors tried to have two of its own plants attacked in 1997. The Doraville General Motors assembly plant there in Doraville twice, and the Lakewood GM plant where they built the pickup trucks at. I'm thinking that was around, I'm trying to recall the date on that, but the first truck bomb attempt on that General Motors assembly plant there in Doraville was when they tried to hit over 11 other targets that morning, which included the IRS building there on Buford Highway, the Amerigas propane distribution facility, the Mansfield Oil fueling depot distribution facility, fuel farm, Peachtree DeKalb Airport, the MARTA rail station bridge, and of course the gas stations along the Buford Highway corridor south of 285.
So she's asking also, did you know anybody named Stanley in Oklahoma? I mean, in Michigan, sorry, from Michigan.
In Michigan? I've heard the name Stanley so many times, I don't know which one to narrow it down. I don't think I've heard anything tied to Michigan yet. I know that Craig Menier, the chairman of the Home Depot Corporation, I know for a fact that he was involved in the abduction of 11-year-old Levi Frady, because I've heard it out of Marilyn Parkman, Levi's mother, and Albert Samples before I heard it out of him. And which I know that Craig was lying and stated that he was the one who picked the date to murder John Bonet, after I heard John Ramsey tell Beth when he was going to have John Bonet murdered.
And it's right at the anniversary, yeah.
Well, I have every reason to believe him that he is a distant cousin or relative of Jill Robinson, because he's from Flint, Michigan also.
Which one is this?
Craig Menier. He's chairman of Home Depot. He's a former CEO.
Well, I wonder how John Ramsey ended up coming across Jill Robinson?
He saw her riding her bicycle.
Oh, man. She was a beautiful little girl, too. I seen her picture.
All those children, they were murdered with nice looking children. I mean,
yeah, I know.
You take a look at Patrick Baltazar. You look at that kid and you just sit there and kind of wonder, even when he got older, what kind of person he would have wound up, because you look there and look at his picture, tell he's a friendly kid.
Right.
You look at John Bonet, and she was a spitting image of her oldest half sister, Beth. I mean, I could see why Beth just melted whenever she held her for the first time, and thought about how much she resembled her when she was, an infant.
I know the majority of these kids have been sexually abused right before they were murdered also.
Yes, it's kind of like the Levi Frady murder case. They don't want to admit that that genital mutilation had been involved, but it had been. The coroner hid that, but one of the people that worked at the funeral home stated that, and we know there was genital mutilation.
Oh, man.
Out there in the West Memphis 3 homicides, and even some of the Atlanta child murder victims had genital mutilation.
Wow.
We see the same similarities in the homicides of Abigail Williams and Libby German out there in Delphi, Indiana, and I know doggone good and well. Even if Ricky Allen murdered those girls, he didn't act alone. Just by the geographical layout of the territory, and people in the area would have seen something. I believe there was about around 100 people involved in those 2 girls' murders.
I got a important question too. Does any of those pictures that it's seen as that you've seen on the bridge, which shows how the so-called
Man on the Bridge, I think Man on the Bridge is Roger Nance.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, and he's affiliated with all this child abductions and child murders and stuff like that with the John Bonet and everything too, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, Clines is not a strange name. Yeah, definitely. Calvin Klein, those are not strange names to me. That's what I will say. Mm-hmm. Composite sketches that I've seen out there so far, the 2 guys that they come up with, they saw walking in the area, matches up to Oklahoma City Centennial Park bomber Mike Cook and his cousin Bobby Cook, are the 2 primary suspected perpetrators of the Centennial Park attack.
Oh.
Eric Rudolph was not in Georgia at all the night of the Centennial Park attack. He was with his brother Daniel up in the community of Hanging Dog.
Yeah.
Drinking beer and smoking marijuana with a group of people up there. That's Hunter Biden's best friend, by the way.
Yeah, I heard about that, what had happened with When they walked back
Yeah.
in there, and there was a, yeah.
Yeah, my brother went in there. What they did is they tried to hit the Little League baseball game over there in Ball Ground, Georgia, back on June 3rd, 97. And I showed up over there just before it happened. Eric was already out, kneeled down past the first base, down on the ground, connecting the wires out of the ground of the explosives to the detonator just after I arrived. Well, of course, Joey Davis and Jeff Cook were there. And they were raising Cain at me for showing up, which I didn't say anything back. I just sat there and watched the, ball game as it was going on, and they kept raising Cain at me for being there. And some of the spectators, when the guys come walking over, what seems to be these guys' problem with you being at this ball game? I said, because they're about to set off a bomb. A bomb? Yeah, I said, that one over there by first base, see him kneel down over there. He's attached to the detonator right now. I was screaming bombs. Of course, that ended that ball game.
And it's kind of funny how some people might say it ain't true, but some of the people you run into today or something like that was there, they still bring it up to you like, man, that bombing, you man, this Waffle House thing, man, this certain thing, they're like validating it out just about so many places.
Well, I can be mean sometimes. People come up and tell me, well, you're crazy. Well, I'm like, well, at least I got a good reason to be. I was sex trafficked when I was 6 years old. First attempt on my life when I was 9 years old. Another attempt when I was 14. Another attempt for my 18th birthday. Brutally attacked on my 18th birthday. And many more attempts. What's your excuse? Did you fall out of the high chair when you were little and hit your head on the floor too many times? Did you fall in the shower? Or were you just naturally born that way? I thought it would get bad,
Right.
But sometimes you have to be tough when you're dealing with people who think you're cray-cray. I mean, which I'll be the first one to admit, this stuff is crazy. I mean, if I didn't know any better myself and I was to hear somebody else go out here and start giving me the layout of this happened, I'd be sitting there kind of wondering, does this guy needs his meds or, I really would. So that's why I don't get really offended like a lot of people would, because I have to look at it from the other people's perspective, put myself in somebody else's shoe that doesn't know any better.
Plus,
that's why I don't let it bother me as much.
Plus, I want to bring this to people's awareness. They had tried to erase your memory in some ways by giving you, what was that they gave you?
It's Versed. It's spelled like verse, VERSED. It's a memory altering injection that they give the combat veterans when they come back from action to help them deal with post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right.
It helps them eliminate the memories of all the traumatic experiences that they, experienced in their lifetime, especially in battle.
How did you end up getting injected with this Versed?
Well, one, I had what I thought was a friend was not a friend, betrayed me. He actually, I ran my mouth at a birthday celebration back in 2012. John Doe number 2 of the Oklahoma City bombing attended my birthday celebration because John also helped me form the Coalition for Children back in 2005, which helped me get the death penalty passed for child rape in Georgia under 1664, the child molestation statute. And also, not only did we get Megan's Law passed into Georgia Code, well, he's the one that helped me get the evidence that launched Operation Long Wine that led to the arrest of Antonio Ramirez Cardenas and Jeffrey Epstein.
Wow.
He also helped me expose this bunch there to people in Cobb County Courthouse. Before our rallies in 2005, I wound up getting a lot of support out of the people at the courthouse that year that both bills wound up passing into law that we wrote the petitions for. We succeeded in what we wanted to do that year. As a U.S. envoy for the Bush administration to the Toledo administration in Peru in January and February of that year was John's main motivation, wanting to help me form a coalition here in the United States, since I had went down and was working, with both the U.S. and Peruvian governments in shutting down the child porn and child sex trafficking operations in Peru from 2005 to 2007.
Thank you.
So that boosted my record to around 323 child rescues as young as 5 years of age in all three operations. Predator with Peru, Long Wine with the U.S., and of course Child Safe stemmed off of Long Wine in 2007 and resulted in a lot of arrests of human traffickers as far as California. Those operations covered it kind of like what we call the Big U, all the way from New York City to Los Angeles.
Wow.
I think it was like 600 or 800 arrests by the time they arrested all the, drug traffickers tied in with it. That wasn't the reason why they turned it over was drugs. It was children.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny how these people in power, they said, well, I lived in like Colorado, where John lived in Colorado, but he also lived in Georgia, and he also lived in Tennessee because he was even dating Natalie Holloway's, was it Natalie Holloway's mother?
Uh-huh. Beth Holloway. Mm-hmm.
Right. But that one, he can't take the blame for messing with Natalie. He cannot.
Well, I blow people's minds when I tell them that I was 2 blocks down there in Miraflores from the casino where Baron Vandersloot met Stephanie Flores the night that she was murdered. I was 2 blocks from him. Which probably wouldn't have set good, because if I would run across him, I think he and I have been going at it. When they smell like a creep, they're a creep.
Right. Yeah, well,
I think there's more to Baron Vandersloot than what meets the eye. I really believe that, I don't have proof, but I think that John Ramsey in some way had something to do with Natalie Holloway's murder.
I wouldn't blame it. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it because how big that their organization is.
Well, it is. I mean, because, you look at his dad was an attorney, I'm just wondering if there's any type of family connections, names between Dave Holloway of the CIA and the Holloways related to Beth and Natalie Holloway.
I'm wondering that too. Whenever you said that, I was thinking, I wonder if that's got any kind of connection to her.
That's the reason. That's the reason why I wonder that, because he was killed with Andy Strassmeyer and Frank Sheldon. They were going to kill me, so they wound up dead.
Wow.
And of course, Robert Miller, he, that was a deep state operation out there in Elohim City, paramilitary as well. So he brought a caravan of his deviants with him out there to Andrews, going to kill me for for the others getting killed. Well, the people wasn't going to allow them to kill me once they found out the truth about me. So they wound up taking Holloway and Strassmeyer's bodies back out to Oklahoma with them, and left us, Sheldon, to deal with. I just told the boys, just take them out and throw them out in the woods for all I care. Let the animals feed off them. But they went ahead and gave them a makeshift Christian burial. So he's buried about, I'd say, right around 100 feet off of Highway 74 east of Andrews.
Wow. So, a while ago, you were mentioning, there's so much going on and happening all throughout. And I know you was talking about earlier how the governor Hunt was giving you was describing it, and we left off at the part just getting at the bombings, and then something else came up about that, and I'll let you finish describing how you ended up with the provisional governor of North Carolina title.
Okay, well, they had a 263-pound hydrogen bomb that had been hijacked from a military base in Virginia. It wound up in the well shed of my buddy Wheeler Davis over there on Flint Hill Road below Cook Ridge, January 28th, 1998, and was set to detonate 36 hours to 7 p.m. that evening. While truck bomb number 13 and Eric Rudolph's pickup truck were headed to Birmingham and Mobile, Alabama to attack the new women's health care clinic and the FBI field office. Well, Special Agent Ron Vincent of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation with assistance of Lord Davis, the leader of the North Point Minuteman militia, were the ones responsible for helping me get word to the FBI about that upcoming attack on the FBI field office. Well, the following Tuesday, after Governor Hunt was going to deploy the National Guard, the Delta Force, and FBI in Western North Carolina over the bombing of that FBI field office down there. 36 hours from the time of detonation is when they figured that the National Guard and Delta Force and forces would be coming over there to Cook Ridge in an attempt to apprehend the cooks. And they weren't going to be there. And that 10-pound core of that 263-pound hydrogen bomb was going to detonate and wipe everything up to an 8-mile radius, but it was going to flow over that hilltop over the town of Murphy and not destroy the entire town of Murphy. But being on a weekend, a lot of students at Young Harris College would have been gone. There would have been a whole lot of activities in Young Harris that afternoon. So they were going to send truck bomb number 14 up to Raleigh the following Tuesday, and they was going to blow Governor Hunt smithereens for starting martial law and all that in the state of North Carolina. So at 9:17 a.m., truck bomb number 13 arrived in Mobile, Alabama. Matt McRae Sr. was the driver. Eric Rudolph was the passenger. 2 Thrasher brothers were the getaway drivers. Well, they pulled by and saw 28 agents loading up their gear into their station wagons, pickups, and SUVs. So they went pulling by wondering what was going on. Because this is at 9:17 a.m. It took Joey Davis 30 minutes to walk from the new women's health care clinic back to Eric's pickup truck. So it was impossible for anyone to get Eric identified at that time because Joey hadn't made it back to his pickup truck for somebody to get his tag number. So they're sitting there scratching their heads, wondering how in the world the FBI was out loading up gear. They pull into the Shell station down the road. Matt goes in and asks the people inside what's going on at the FBI. Well, they're loading up their gear to go up to Murphy, North Carolina, to search for the guy named Eric Rudolph for hitting the abortion provider over there in Birmingham. So they're all shocked because it's humanly impossible for anyone to even know who Eric Rudolph was because, like I said, Joey hadn't made it back to his pickup yet. So they're sitting there wondering what to do. Well, of course, Matt McRae didn't want Eric riding in the truck with him back with that truck bomb. And, of course, the Thrasher brothers didn't want to ride him back in their vehicle because they didn't want to be caught with him. So they wound up letting him out in Spanish Fort there, just past the Blessed Bridge up there on I-65 to hitchhike all the way back up to Murphy. Well, Jimmy Hunt and this man, the Attorney General and Director of the State Bureau of Investigation, were in the McDonald's at Murphy since 5:30 that morning. Got right there a little bit after 6. They had the dining room cut off to the public, but they still had the drive-thru open. So in there, the local members of the VFW and the governor's office and I were in there for our pretty much day-long meeting to sit there and watch everything pan out. Well, Matt McRae finally arrived back from Mobile right around 3:40 p.m. And instead of pulling into the rear parking lot of his family business there at the Radio Shack, he pulled next door to the rear parking lot of my office there at Electrolux. Well, Governor Hunt really didn't want to have to go negotiate with him with a convoy of FBI coming in 20 minutes behind him, since he intended to blow him up the following Tuesday anyway. So, my Lieutenant Governor, he didn't want to go back there with him either, and neither did the Director of the State Bureau of Investigation. So they got in touch with President Clinton, and he approved them to suspend the state of North Carolina, declare it as a provisional state, and appoint me as governor. And go negotiate to get that truck bomb out of Murphy. So that's how that went down. So we had to give them all a 25-year run to get that hydrogen bomb surrendered and get that truck bomb out of Murphy before the FBI arrived that afternoon.
Right. So that's how you ended up being the provisional governor of
Well, it's really governor of the provisional state of North Carolina. What it is a state of martial law, which just didn't deploy the National Guard with the curfews and start grabbing guns. Not a gun grabber. I think whenever there's problems in the country, it's normally with the government, and that's when the people need their firearms. It's when dealing with governments that's getting off the chain like we got getting off the chain today, because all this was an inside job. The Gridiron Secret Society. Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, he was down there to Chattahoochee River that night. Les Flexner, Ron Brill, Arthur Blank as members of the Mossad. And, of course, the Bentleys, who had the names of the New Order of the Ku Klux Klan. I mean, come on. What, the Klan's supposed to be anti-Jewish. What are they doing down there, torturing black boys with these guys, who are Jewish, some from Israel. What's up with that? Well, it all goes back to Jekyll Island in 1910, and you just have to do your research. I'm not here to explain it as much as I would love to.
Right.
All I can do is lay out the facts about what I do know, and make available some of the evidence so people have the ability to be able to look to it and make their own determination, whether they can accept it or not, because it's pretty much the truth that that's been hidden.
Yes, and they want to.
The gag orders issued on all the employees of General Motors, both assembly plants. They're expired. They're null and void.
So y'all speak
They're
up.
unenforceable.
Y'all speak up. Speak up now. Y'all can speak up. It's gone. The gag order. So come on, and y'all can share it now without worrying. Well,
even though I don't recommend it for the employees of the Home Depot corporate headquarters, because a lot of them still live in close proximity to these executives.
Right.
Arthur Blank, he owns the Atlanta Falcons and Atlanta United soccer teams. Bernie Marcus owns the Atlanta Aquarium. And the Home Depot, Bentley Enterprises, Bentley Farms, they're really the main human trafficking operation in the United States right now.
So, a friend said that John and Patsy even used to live in Charlevoix, Michigan.
Oh, of course. Yes. No, they had homes all over. There's no telling where John Ramsey would pop up at. Now, I'll settle this with John Mark Carr, too. I think his dad, John Sr., John Mark Carr's dad was involved with John Ramsey in the Atlanta child murders. Matter of fact, the Carrs live less than 3 miles from the Ramsey home in Sandy Springs. So if John Mark Carr Jr. wanted to do anything inappropriate with John Bonet, he didn't have to go to Boulder, Colorado to do it. Because he had a key to the Ramsey home that he could help himself to the Ramsey home anytime he wanted to. That's how close of friends him and his dad are with John Ramsey.
Did they leave the door unlocked or anything like that? I thought I had heard that the door was left unlocked.
No, they said that the intruder came through the window. Well, she wasn't even murdered in her home. She was murdered down the street. There was a series of parties that went on that Christmas there in Boulder. The Whites next door, they had a party. 2 or 3 more families down the street had parties. There was a bunch of people out there at those parties, including Nicole Kidman, including Nancy Grace. Nancy Grace knows who murdered John Bonet Ramsey. Don't be fooled about Nancy Grace. Tiptoe Ted Turner's, where I give Ted Turner the name Tiptoe Ted, because Ted Turner was down there at the Chattahoochee River that night. I went down there and pled for my brother's return. I know because I saw it. These were very powerful, rich people. Even Ray Duncan's boys, Tim and David, don't even like the stuff that their own daddy was involved in. Hunter Biden, I heard Nancy Grace defending Justin Bieber over the Pump Diddy case there. How Justin got pulled in at an early age. Well, it was the same thing with Hunter Biden. And that's why I think really people need to take that into account and really pray for the two guys, to be honest with you.
Yes.
More than hate them, just kind of look at it. Well, it's a good chance they wouldn't have turned out the way they did if it wasn't for parental influence. Because by the time Hunter Biden was 19 years old, he was addicted to cocaine because of people like the Cooks and Eric Rudolph. I mean, Francis John and Robert Cook, they grew up with Zell Miller. They used to throw mud clods across that creek right there between Brasstown, North Carolina, and Young Harris, Georgia. They lived in a rock throws distance of each other. Many nights, Zell spent the nights with the Cooks, staying overnight. Many nights they ate at each other's dinner tables with their family. They were like family.
Wow.
Well, that's who had that 263-pound hydrogen bomb.
Wow.
Murphy Building Supply.
Mm.
Which, of course, in baseball game 1974, I accused Mike Cook of going to blow up the federal building in Oklahoma City that hadn't even been built yet, and the Olympics when they came to Atlanta. So, September the 19th, 1999, I'll never forget that day. They lost their death wager. They wanted to prove that they bet their lives against mine that they could prove that the FBI sent me up there to shut them down. And they lost. It was eminently impossible for the FBI to send me up to that baseball game in 1974.
Right.
And the FBI did not send me down to the panhandle of Florida and Alabama to be chased around down there.
Right.
Okay, so
that's their own shenanigans.
The FBI didn't send me to Murphy. I knew I had to go to Murphy. Only thing I needed out of the FBI was confirmation. And I got it.
Right.
July the 15th, 1996, down there in Pace, Florida. I got a phone call. My office got a phone call from the FBI. Well, I was in the morning meeting. So after my meeting, Rachel, my manager's wife, worked there too. She told me they'd called. So I called back the FBI satellite office there in Pensacola, and they wanted a meeting. So, of course, I went and met with them. Well, it was over the meeting that I had with Special Agent Ron Pines of the Alabama Bureau of Investigation. Well, I met with, if I remember correctly, it was around the 19th of November, 1995, there at the Huddle House in Bruton. And what had happened, I had found a child porn ring working down there in Andalusia. And come to find out, that's one of the reasons why they were down there trying to chase me around and kill me.
Because you found the child
porn.
porn?
Across it and report it to the authorities. So that was another reason they were coming down there to Alabama trying to kill me, because John Carr and Monty and Ramsey were going down and taking videos of 14-year-old Rhonda Geneva Walker and some of her cousins. So that's why they were trying to get rid of me in Lower Alabama, because I was offered $4.5 million after they killed those two boys over there on Greenbrier Parkway when we helped escape from that barn.
Okay, I think we did a lot today. We got over 2.5 hours. Would you like to do this again? And what would you like to maybe discuss the next time? What topic?
Well, before I get to that, I just want everybody to know that I told them exactly what they could do with that $4.5 million hush money. Okay. And I don't see any of them that's ever had the willingness to come up to me alone and talk to me face to face, except just for a few of them that have been man enough to do that. But the next conversation that we'll carry on, I guess, we will get into. I guess we'll get into the attacks. About who did what on this place, who tried what attacks they attempted, as well as the government officials, and the CEOs who are very much involved in this.
Right.
You probably want to think twice when it comes to drink cocoa. You're
Right.
probably not going to want to go to another Home Depot again once you fully understand exactly what kind of people started the Home Depot Corporation.
Exactly. And our bucket list said, "Thank you, Mr. Blackstone."
Well, everybody, you're welcome. It's, we're asking for everybody to pray for that sheriff over there in Cobb County, Craig Owens, because he can't handle it when Burger King gets his Whopper wrong. Burger King and Cobb County don't get the sheriff's Whopper wrong, he'll have 2 deputies come out.
That is a waste of taxpayers' money. Really, seriously,
Yeah, yes. No sting operations. And Sheriff Grady Judd down there in Polk County, Florida. Let's give that man an applause for his efforts. He's doing a wonderful job down there in Florida.
Yeah, we love Sheriff Grady Judd.
Yeah, we love Sheriff Grady Judd. But Craig Owens, I'm sorry, I'm afraid going to Burger King now. He might show up and call his deputies out over his Whopper getting wrong.
Well, he did call him, but it's bad about it, wasn't he?
Oh, he was.
That did make the news, though.
I don't think hopefully he won't be sheriff after the 4th.
Yeah, that kind of waste of taxpayers' money instead of going out and doing other. Eric also said thank you.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for your attention, and y'all know how that word of mouth advertisement goes. And when I go to Raleigh, I need a good fraction of this country knowing and expecting me to go to Raleigh to the North Carolina Governors Association to get my documents.
Yes, you need to. You got a right and every right to have your documentation.
Well,
and Lady O says,
people to go with me this time. They're not going to stop me at the door when I get there.
Lady O said, "Thank you, Mr. Rogers, for sharing. Could listen to you more."
Well, thank you, Darlene, for having me on your show, and thank you everybody for your prayers and support. And hopefully, we're about to start getting some justice done here. We got a lot at stake. Our country is really, really in some bad trouble right now.
Yes, it is. I entirely agree with you. Well, thank you so much.
Take it in prayer. Everybody, just take it in prayer. And go in there, close that closet door, and just do what Jesus said. Get on your prayers and pray to our Heavenly Father. Say the Lord's Prayer. If you don't know how to pray to Him yet, that's a good start. But
thank you too.
Jesus said, "Take it to our Father in prayer." So let's do what Jesus said.
Exactly. I want to do what Jesus said and not what the government is telling me to do right now.
Yeah, don't listen to Slicky Boy or Pointy Governor in North Carolina. Just take it on your conscience and just go.
Well, thank you so much. Lady O said prayers. Yes, prayers, everybody. Well, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you later and give you a call later if you feel like talking, okay?
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Y'all be sure to give hearts all across the street if y'all can to show him love. Like if he comes back and listens to this again, he's hung up now. And so be sure to give him lots of hearts to show that we love and care for him and we're supporting him, all right? Appreciate each and every one of y'all, because this needs to get out there. This is really vital. It's very important. Much love and prayers for all. God bless. Thank you so much. God bless you, and much love and prayers too. Thank you, old lady. I appreciate y'all. And y'all have a good rest of the day, good rest of the weekend and stuff. I think I'm going to go relax a while. God bless you too, old lady. Thank you so much. Lots of hugs and love y'all.